Hello, writers and crafters. I'm Valerie Ihsan.
And I'm Erick Mertz.
And this is episode 79 of the podcast, and it's August 10th, 2022, as we record this. Today, our main topic is planning your creative path. We do want to thank our new patron. Yay, I love new patrons. New patron, Sean Sharp. And thanks to Mary Van Everbroeck for upping her pledge this week as well. And thank you
you
to all
guys.
of our current patrons. We totally appreciate you. And if you're not a patron and you want to be and get all the extra goodies that come with it, you can go to patreon.com/Valerie Ihsan, IHSAN. We've got a couple of announcements. You want to do that first before we talk about what we're reading, or do you want to do that afterwards?
Let's do that afterwards.
Okay. What are you reading?
Well, here's a funny story, right? I started reading Summer Night, the next book in the Dresden Files. I mentioned that in the last podcast.
Uh-huh.
Went out on a quick overnight trip and left the book in the Airbnb. So
Bummer.
yeah, that happens, right? On Facebook, I was posting pictures of the books that the host had sort of decoratively placed around, and now my book with my bookmark is going to be one of them for future guests. So
bummer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that happens. So I haven't acquired a new copy of that book yet because I'm going to read it in paper. So I'm reading Jeff Vandermeer. I don't know. He wrote Annihilation. He wrote a bunch of really kind of cool sci-fi books. And I'm reading one of his little short reads called The Strange Bird. And it's a strange read. It's like a novella, and it's from this world that he's got where there's like these sort of like cyber humanoid animals are created, and there's like a bear and a bird and some other animals. And it's just really weird, wacky stuff, but it's kind of runs the line between literature and genre fiction, which is it's a great read. I sometimes read it little bits and then I have to stop myself and go, what just happened? What was that experience? Because there's like all this consciousness. The animals, the cyber animals are becoming conscious and they're reacting to things. And so it's a weird read. It's definitely worth picking up if you liked Annihilation or any of those books of his. What about you?
I am reading The Many Daughters of Afong by, I forget who the author is. I'll just put it in the show notes. I'm almost done with that. So I already have my next book picked out, which is.
Ooh, yeah. I love lining them up, right? You gotta.
Yeah.
Don't go to the library now. Don't go to the library because then something's gonna jump in there.
Right? Yeah. I better not get another hold release from my library. Yeah. This one is a memoir called The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating by Elisabeth Tova Bailey. And
The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating.
Yeah. So she's laid up. All I know about the book is that she's ill or something. She's laid up in bed and she's bedridden. She can't get out. And there happens to be this little snail that has taken up residence in her little bedside table. So she just watches it and talks about it. And so I don't know anything else about it other than that. And somebody had ordered it at the bookstore. And I was like, wow, that looks really interesting. So I ordered myself a copy.
Points for great title, right? I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of great title, I've been trying to come up with a new title for the memoir, and I think I might have it.
Ooh.
Which, of course, solidifies the need for a new cover.
Somewhere a cover designer just got all diabolical cartoon fingers over that.
Yeah, so I just don't know if I should add a subtitle to it or if that just makes it too clunky. So I think I'm going to poll my readers and give them, some options and see what they come up with. But
interesting.
Yeah, so I hope that the new title is more evocative and makes you pick it up.
We should at some point talk about covers here. I know it's a podcast. I know most people are listening and not looking, and covers are a visual concept. But I think, I'm at this point where putting out a book in a week, in one day, so 8 days to freedom for chasing shadows. But but the cover, like each book, like when you're doing a series, having the right cover becomes a balancing act up to what I loved in book one. Is it carry through to book three?
Mm-hmm.
Covers are an ongoing conversation, even for well-established authors too, I see. So
Let's see what else in terms of reading. I'm still kind of reading The Dude and the Zen Master. That's one of those that I pick up and read, 3 or 4 pages here and there. It's kind of like a philosophy, but funny. And so I like that. And I did just
I
finish.
have. Oh, go ahead.
I did just finish reading Newsletter Ninja 2, which is Tammy LaBreck.
Oh,
That's a good book. And I just was on a book club podcast or whatever yesterday, and then we talked about it.
is that
So
worth picking up for somebody who read the first one 4 years ago or whenever it came out?
absolutely, because this one is all about reader magnets. It's just talking about reader magnets. I mean, she kind of brings in a couple of um, concepts, from the first book in terms of newsletter health or whatever. Um, but yeah, I thought I have some great ideas, and also have determined that the reader magnet I have been working on and was ready to put out is not the one I'm going to be able to put out. Based on reading that, I'm going to have to write a new one.
This is why I try not to learn anything, because as soon as I learn something, I'm going to find out what I did, what didn't work. No, that's not true. I want to read this book because like the newsletter is my constant focus, and without it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an audience. So
Yeah. The other book, I just have to do a quick plug for Sasha Black's new book, The Anatomy of a Bestseller. I read that in like a day. It was awesome. And I've already started putting in some deconstructing to a couple of my favorite novels. And I'm trying to like incorporate that into the manuscript I'm working on now. So that's inspiring and awesome. And so all good stuff. I should put that
I
under the
have
resources.
I have that book that I pick at. It's called and the kicker is, I think I might have mentioned it. It's a book. It's interviews with, I think there's like 45 really big comedy writers in it, and they just talk about their craft and what they find funny and what they think comedy is, what inspires them, what it's really interesting because I think comedy's become the idea of being funny or being a comedian is under the microscope right now with there's a lot of comedians who are being outed and canceled because of the subject matter of their humor. And then
Mm-hmm.
so I think we're having a real, I don't like this term, but I think it's accurate. Like, I think we're having a cultural conversation about comedy, like what's funny, what's not funny, what's in and out of bounds. And it's
Ali and I
interesting.
have this conversation at home quite a bit, actually, because
Yeah.
our what we think is funny is slightly different.
Yeah, Lisa and I, like, if there's a Venn diagram of our humor, it's like there's a lot of overlap, but then there's that little bit of outside,
Yep.
where she's a little more like this and I'm a little more like that. But it's an interesting book if you're interested in comedy. It's a massive book, and I'll probably take a year to read it, just picking at it. But it's just really interesting how a lot of comedians come up with their stuff. And I'll just throw out a little fact that I read yesterday. The original writers of The Office, the British the guys who created that show, their big inspiration was Bridges of Madison County. Which, yeah, right, yeah, you just do a double take when you hear that. But it was fascinating the way he talked about how sincere the connection was between the characters in that movie, and how they always said, like, they're really hard, they really pushed to get close to each other. And he said that was the dynamic we wanted for all the characters. They really wanted to be close to each other, but there was always some comedic opposite that kept them from really
Uh-huh.
engaging.
That's so
And
interesting.
right, so who would have thought? And I think that's where I love those sort of books where it's like, I would have never thought that. It gives you an opportunity to look at something in a different way. And
What was the title of the book? I want to put it in the resources list.
it's called And the Kicker Is.
And the kicker is.
And there's a whole like the comedians in it that they interview there's such a wide variety. There's the author who wrote The Graduate, the screenwriter who wrote The Graduate. There's the guys from The Office, Ivan Reitman. There's just a bunch of And there's not necessarily names either, people who just were staff writers on certain shows for a really long time who write about punching up jokes, from other writers. It's an interesting look at what's funny,
Mm-hmm.
which I always think, I love that quote where it says, if the longer you look at something, or I'll butcher it, but the longer you look at a joke, the less funny it gets,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is true. But boy, reading about comedy doesn't spoil it. It's really been informative. So
That's cool.
yeah,
Well, so
let's talk about it.
our announcements, I'm
Oh,
going to be reading selections from my new memoir, along
I
with
saw
a
that.
couple of other authors from the Eugene area at Tsunami Books on Sunday, this coming Sunday, August 14th at 4 p.m. So if you're local, come on down for that. And also, we had a great comment on one of the shows. It was your show, Erick Mertz Part One.
Uh-oh. Oh, I didn't see
Yeah,
this.
the comment was fantastic discussion. It's very nice to know that the feelings, thinking, and experiences I have as a writer are shared by accomplished authors. Thank
Oh,
you for
wow.
sharing your knowledge and experiences. So I just wanted to put that out there. That was from Mary, our patron that just upped her pledge. So
Well, that
yay.
feels good.
Yeah. Okay, so today we're talking about planning. Yay.
You love planning.
I
So,
love planning. It's so
so do
exciting.
I. So do I.
So, how do we want to start this? You
It's,
said a couple of months ago that you slated August as kind of your recentering. What am I going to do with my career? What do I want to do for the rest of the year? Is that something you do every August, or was that just like, oh, it's time for me to do that? How often do you
well, I'm
do
just going
that?
to pause and say I think it's funny that we both paused when we started this topic about planning because, we were kind of like, how do we want to talk about this? Um, so even planners can come off the hip on something because this is a hard topic. We don't want to like sound like it's the tendency sometimes for me is to feel micromanaging, like I'm micromanaging myself or so I don't. This was completely the product of life. My kid is out of school. August was the month where he doesn't have any camps this month. He had camps all the rest of the summer. So this is I looked at this as being the month, if anything, where there was going to be an interruption to the steady writing flow, that this was going to be it. So I thought like, well, why not just beat the world to that, to that moment and use this time in a way that I could, I don't know, just use it less structured. If I
Mhm.
was going to lose my writing time and I was going to get a couple of hours in a weird time, let's just use that to plan, to think ahead, to do that. So it's, yeah, totally random.
Okay. Were you
But I'm
surprised
going to
at
do
what you
this,
came up with?
but I will sort of set this out. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump you there, but like, I think this is valuable to like have a month or have a period of time when you can kind of pause on the type A career pusher and sort of step in and say like, let me just imagine for a little bit
Hmm.
and then try to put that into place.
Yeah. I
I'm
kind
going to
of
do this.
think more often is better for me. Um, but I don't know, we talked about self-care before, and this is sort of one
Right.
of the things I do just to stay sane, and that's to have weekly time that I set aside to just sort of think about the week, plan meals out. I don't, just what am I doing
Yeah.
this week? What do I want to get done? And then this, I call it a passion roadmap because that's what my planner calls it. But doing this sort of,
It's a good name.
doing this sort of, I mean, it doesn't have to apply just to career
Right.
because as an entrepreneur, a lot of our family work gets sort of, it bleeds into each other sometimes.
Yeah.
So, doing a house project where you're building an office in the backyard for your writing business, like that's the kind of thing that would sort of bleed in. And
Yeah.
well, yeah. If, so this doesn't have to be just business planning, but for this month, that's what I chose to do, was just make it
Right.
about business plans. But I do this like twice a year.
Yeah.
And
In a
yeah.
macro way, right? You're talking about like, okay, big picture Val time. you do that a couple times a year.
Yeah. And I usually do like a 1 month goal. Well, actually, I don't usually do a 1 month. I usually do a 3 month goal, 6 months, 1 year, and 3 years during my planning session that I do twice a year. And then, all of the things that I want to get accomplished within 3 months, will be on like a little list. And then after I get that all out on paper, then I choose one that I want to focus on, so that my attention and energy isn't too scattered. Like if I'm only going to get one of these things done in the next 3 months, what is the thing that's going to make the most impact or make my life better, or, whatever quality it is that you're measuring with. But
right.
So that's kind of macroly how I do it.
Right. I developed this probably, I would say, earlier this year, and I think I'm going to refine this process. I just do quarterly things. I try to look at things like the next quarter we'll go into is what, October, November, December. So that's quarter 4. Next month I'll start really, well, actually I'm kind of doing it this month. But I'm rolling towards like finishing quarter 3 goals that I set for myself. And then how do I sort of like use that as a platform to build into the quarter 4 goals, So usually it'll be like a marketing goal. Like I'm going to do 3 different things to get newsletter people, or I'm going to do like that. Like, let's say that, like to get subscribers, I'm going to use these new techniques in the next 3 months. And then my thinking is then the next quarter, when I have those extra subscribers, how do I, so I try to like look at everyone as like, I have like a marketing goal, a creative goal, a business goal. And then I have like a goal for like it's sort of like a scares you goal. Like the thing that I know I need to do, but I'm not doing it. And because I will, like we discussed in the C podcast, Eric part 2, like I can really avoid doing things that I'm not good at because I'm good at this. I'll just keep doing this. So I have to push myself a little differently with those. So my scares me goal is I need to do some video for my website, for my business website. And it's really a big hump for me to get over. I make every excuse. I don't have a professional studio. I don't have professional cameras. And then I go look at people who have video on their sites and they don't have professional studios or cameras. So I have to, get over some of those things. Like, oh, I wore that shirt 7 years ago in a video. I can't wear that now. Like I will make up any excuse. So what I think is interesting in the goal setting conversation is like, the different motivations that I need for each one. It's really have to be careful so that I'm not setting 4 goals for the quarter that require real pushing. I have to have some soft goals. Like I am going to finish that novella this quarter, right? I'm going to do that. That's easy. I know I'm going to do that, but I have to have that one to pat myself on the back so I feel better about this one. So it's a little bit of like mind games with yourself, that comes into this for me. Not mind games, but just motivators. You have to know how to motivate yourself.
Yeah. So I'm just going to push back. I just watched a couple of Becca Sion videos yesterday on our Quickcast.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you said that, you want to push yourself to do the video on your site, but you've been procrastinating and trying to figure out, find ways to not do it. So then questioning the premise, like what do you need to have video on your website? Why do you need to have video on your website? Is there another way that you can?
Well, I taught, in a strictly business sense, the SEO person who does the SEO for my website says, look, you could boost all of these blogs in a considerable way. If you had a YouTube channel that was for your business, and it'll boost those blogs, underperforming blogs on my site. You could get some better juice with those. And this, the numbers prove that would work. That's how sort of like, that is how phobic I am sometimes about pushing myself to do those new things. Like I can have like a quantifiable end, and it's still a struggle for me to say like, all right, I'm just going to struggle through a couple of videos for the better of, for better results. I still struggle with it. but I do. I mean, I've written some scripts. I've booked out the time to do it, created a spot in my home. So I'm getting there, but I should have done this a year ago. Shoulda, a lot of shouldas.
What were those? You said you have a creative goal, a marketing goal, a scares me goal, and was there one more?
Just like a business goal.
Business goal. Okay.
Yeah, it's a business goal for me is something that I have to be in control of, because I can't set the goal of I need 10 new clients in the next 3 months, because I'm not entirely in control of just the whims of the market. Like I got a client and lost a client in the last week. I lost a client. I didn't lose, like, it wasn't that somebody fired me. It's that I had a client that I thought I was going to be able to convert, and I didn't. But the funny thing was, the one that I got, I could have swore from the first conversation that it wasn't going to work out. And it did. And then it was the other way. I had great chemistry with the other person, and they decided to go elsewhere. So I can't, for business goals, I can't set goals that I can't control. But if the goal is I'm going to, perform these tasks that I know I can do, then if I know what they're going to do for my business, then I can just hope for those other outcomes. So I'll set things like 4 new blogs, blog on these topics, find 3 new places to distribute blogs, those kind of things, like, will be like business goals.
Yeah. Things that you have control over, which is important when you're making a goal. Then it's not a wish. It's a,
yeah. Like
you
my
can have
goal
an
is
intention to, collect new clients or build your mailing list, but yeah, you're not fully in control of that. So creating a goal statement is one that you have to have control over it. And I like the ideas that you came up with in order to draw new clients. Your content marketing, that's the way to do it, really.
Yeah, I think sometimes when I hear people setting goals, I'll hear goals that are, again, like I'm going to get 5 new clients. I have a colleague that will say that I'm going to get 5 new clients this quarter. Well, how are we going to do that? Like that puts a lot of pressure on something that's out of your control. So yeah, that's an important part of anything, knowing what you control.
Yes. And then breaking that down, like you said. So that's the next stage. So this is
for those who are on the radio, you are missing a sticker page right now on the video. You're missing a sticker page.
This is my mid-year passion roadmap. Yeah. Cool. So I came up with very author specific, nothing else is in here. And I tried to be like super essential. Like the thing that I want to work on for the rest of the year is my memoir. I want to publish that January 1st. So I made another list. I had to break it down because, writing a book is a huge, or revising in my case, revising a book is a huge project. And it's too big of a bite to chew. You know what I mean? You have to break it down into steps. And so, because part of my creative fun play is playing with my planner and stickers and stuff, I created another page that is all of the steps I need to do to publish this book. So having those little action steps help create forward momentum. And like you said, the easy goals, like once you cross something off the list, it feels good and you have energy then to work on the next step or work on the next goal. So
I want anybody to know, like, so I'm holding up my goal thing. So there's no stickers here. This is an old yellow notebook, like a legal pad. And there's just a lot of check marks. I spilled some beer on this page right here. I love that you have such a, I have, this to me, is about as fancy as I can get. But I do the whole, this is Q3 goals. And so I've got the headering, and then I've got the steps underneath it. And I go through and I check them, I check them off as I go. And I get the big satisfaction out of it. So here's something I accomplished. It's got a great big X through it. So when I go flipping through this thing, look at that X. I don't have to look under that X anymore.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what do you, I was going to say what motivates you to finish things on your list, but that's kind of a different topic. But did you have something that just pops up?
I mean, I just think it's my personality type. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want, I know what I have. Well, yeah, my personality type tends to be like, I am an INTJ on the Myers-Briggs. Is that Myers? That's Myers-Briggs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the director, like I have that sort of like over the top, the big view of things. And I tend I embrace that. Even when I was doing case management before I stepped out as a full-time writer, I really like the big picture things, and I'm really motivated by the incremental growth in the big picture as you accomplish little things.
Mm-hmm.
I really get a huge kick out of just the nudge. So yeah,
Do you find that making the quarterly goals gives you enough of that overview? Do you also know like kind of a hint of what's coming in the next quarter also? Like you don't map it out maybe, but you're like, okay, this is for this quarter. I'm going to push this other idea off to the next quarter.
I know that every one of those, like especially the scares me stuff, is the things that I do that with the real hope and belief that once I get over that hump, if I do the thing that scares me, I will inevitably integrate that into it. Won't scare me anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I'm going to do these videos and put them up on my site. There's two outcomes. Hopefully they do what the SEO technical person says and drives traffic. But then on the other hand, I will have broken that wall down. And
Mm-hmm.
so maybe I create a video, next year we're talking about me creating a video channel for my books. I'm doing like a weekly 10-minute video about my author world. Like I do everything hopefully with like just this is just going to open another door and another door and
Mm-hmm.
another door. So the
So you don't
big,
so the
oh, go
big
ahead.
picture includes like, oh, leaving that door open
Yes.
for opportunities to come in.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of fits into that author, right? You're writing a book to complete a book to get that hit of satisfaction and it sounds to me it always sounds a little bit of vain, but just like to kind of you get to strut around with that a little bit when you publish a book. Like you talk about it, you bring it out, you accomplish something, but it opens the door to the next book and the next book and the next book. And if you're building that author brand and building that author um, business, then yeah, you can't have a backlist of 10 books without 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So yeah, I think dead end goals can be they're the ones that stick on my list a little too long. It just they're just like I'm just going to accomplish this and finish this. It's not opening another door.
Mm.
It's I don't see where I'm planting the seed and how that's going to keep going
I
all
guess
the
those
time.
are maybe more tasks rather than strategies.
Good point. Good point.
So you can always change the task. You can decide that that task isn't going to serve the strategy as well as you
Right.
thought, and you can move it off the list. And maybe that's why it doesn't feel compelling to do. What is one thing from your list that you are going to work on this month?
I kind of thought you were going to ask that. Well, I mean, the video, I've set aside some video time for the last week of the month. Elijah goes back to school, so it'll probably be like either the Wednesday or either the 31st or the 1st. I'll have the afternoons in the house and I'll be able to shoot some video. It'll be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
What other goals? So I'm going to have to flip through my so one of the other goals, I publish a lot of blogs on my on my writer site, but not on my author site, and I've got a bunch of blogs just stacked up. So my goal was to put those out. So I'm going to commit some time. I think it's next week. I've set aside to just go in, publish those blogs, schedule them out so they're coming out over the next couple of
Nice.
months. Yeah,
That's
planning
cool.
a retreat for myself
Ooh.
is on that list. I have some sort of mastermind story arc stuff to work on, and I just want to take 2 days out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do that on Thursday afternoon. That's my weekly time. So Thursday between 1 and 3 is my go sit down, get a Spanish coffee, plug in
Yum.
my headphones, and do some mastermind, some big thinking. Like, what do
That's
I want?
awesome. One of
What
my
about you?
goals
Like, what are,
in the
yeah,
next quarter, I would like to really re-engage my mailing list. And so that's just sort of like an intention, I haven't broken it down into those action steps, but that would, that's something that isn't totally in my control, whether a mailing list subscriber re-engages or not, but I can put out newsletters, I can send emails, I can come up with topics, I can write new little cookies, and send them out to the mailing
right.
list just to surprise and delight the ones that are there. And, so those are some things that I could do to re-engage my mailing list. Just, email them more often.
Right. And the results will be what the results will be. And then you can kind of hone once you, right. Is this the way you think of it? Once you start doing that and you start getting in the habit of re-engaging that mailing list, then you can start looking at results a little bit more critically. Because, all right, I
Yeah,
want to
if
get
you
10.
track. Yeah.
Yeah. I think putting some of those like results before the like re-engagement is goal one. Goal two would be like, all right, now let's get some results out of that. Let's
Yeah, let's clean it
refine.
up and
Yeah.
get rid of the people that don't really want to be there. And I would really
That's
like
so
to
hard.
redo
It's so
my
hard.
automation sequence.
Yep.
It's
To redo that.
years old. I think I wrote it in 2016 or 20, something like that. It was old. It's
It
old.
works.
It works,
Here's
but I need to, because people respond to them,
right.
but I need
Right.
to like change it up and update it, I guess.
That's how I find like the real I just did mine a year ago and the engagement in the mailing list prior to doing a good onboarding sequence and after, before and after, lights, night and day. Couldn't be any more
Nice.
different. But you also, it's a way to tease out people who really want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep all those people in like a list, and then when I'll go to them and say, "Look, I just asked for ARC readers. Do you sure you don't want to be an ARC reader because you look like you're interested?" And most of, "Oh, I didn't know you would want me." Great.
Oh,
So there's, yeah. Anyway, mailing list is a whole nother topic. It's it's the biggest topic sometimes in my world. So
well, yeah. Then read Tammy Labrecque's new book, Newsletter Ninja 2. I don't know how
I'm
new it
gonna.
is, but it's the next one. Um, and in terms of, is there anything else you want to say about planning or?
I think the last topic we should talk about is the what do you do when you look at your to-do list or your quarterly goal list, whatever, however you do it,
Mm-hmm.
and you say, "Wow, I didn't do that." Like, what do you
If I
do?
if I have something that keeps on my list and I don't do it and I keep moving it to the next week and the next week, or if it's just like a 6 month plan or something like that, and the 6 months are over and it hasn't happened yet. Um, First I will take into account, like, so what did happen in that 6 months? Like,
Right,
did I start a new job? Did, a family member, were they in the hospital? Like,
right,
what life thing happened that interrupted that? And if there isn't anything, then usually for me, if a task or a to-do list item has not been done, it's because either I just don't want to do it. So then I can question the premise. Thank you, Becca Syme, and find out, is it something I really need to do? Like, why do I think I need to do this? If it is something I need to do, like taxes or something like that,
yeah,
then I could delegate it. I could hire somebody else to do it.
right,
I can delay it as long as possible, or I can, just do it and get it done with. And in order to do that, usually it requires more steps. So I
right,
haven't broken it down into small enough steps that I'm comfortable with, because sometimes you see the item on the list and it's just too big, and you just can't make yourself go there because it requires so many other things to do first that you hadn't thought of. And so,
yeah,
yeah, breaking it
sounds
down even
familiar.
smaller. That's what I do.
Yeah, similar. I tend to say either I look at it like I tend to look at the big picture. Like, all right, I set 5 goals for this quarter and I've not done this one. Did I set too many? Did I not scale things right? Did I not give myself a softball goal that I knew I could accomplish? So I try to give the goal a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe it was me, not the goal. But if I do find that like, yeah, I should have been able to do that, then yeah, it's just got to move it, reprioritize it, or just eliminate it. There's some things I've just eliminated,
Yep,
that
ditch it.
I can't, I'm not going to get to this, or it's not important, or the outcomes are not clearly, I don't see the outcome. So,
yeah, I went to Dean Wesley Smith's business mastery class a few years ago, and several years ago now. But one thing that came up in there, I think it was Catherine Rush. I knew there was another word in there. She was the one I think said it. There was the 4 Ds: ditch it, delay it, delegate it. Or no, did I say that wrong? Oh no.
those sound right. I mean, ditch it, delay it, delegate it.
Yeah, or do it. Yeah, those are the 4 Ds. If you don't want to do it, pass it on to someone else, or just don't do it.
And I think what you said is, I mean, there's things you might delay that you have to do, like taxes.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about practical home things, like you have to figure out what's for dinner because it's a meal, and you're probably not going to be happy if you don't get it. But when it comes to the other things, you can be philosophical about it. You can examine those goals, and you're not beholden to them. You're not failing in the exercise if you're not nailing every one, perfectly in the quarter. You're just finding that the exercise is more complicated than at first glance, I guess.
Okay, well, we are out of time.
Oh my gosh,
this
already.
morning, and I think our next episode, I would really like to talk about crowdfunding. I haven't looked at that in a really long time, and Patreon is a way of crowdfunding. Indiegogo, Kickstarter. I know you did a Kickstarter years ago. I would love to pick your brain about that.
That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. I remember hearing you talk about it at a Willamette Writers conference, I believe.
Yeah. It was an interesting exercise. I'm again talk about goals that are on the horizon. Like, one day I want to get back into doing this. So
perfect episode topic then. So
perfect timing.
Well, thank you for joining me this morning, and
it was my pleasure. Thank you.
I'm going to go walk my dogs now.
Oh, enjoy it. Have a great day.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.